Hello everyone, I'm here with a new flip-through video. This is part 2 of my September trip to New York City and out of New York City. We went upstate a little bit. And so I'm starting with day 2. So here we are. We stayed in Hastings-on-Hudson in a tiny house. We found it through Airbnb. There really were no hotels available in the area. And we had thought originally like, oh, we're going mid-September, it'll be fine. No, like hotels were already booked and stuff. So if you're gonna go up there, keep that in mind. It can get quite busy as soon as fall hits. So we found this little place. So here's a view of it. It was behind the owner's house. So I don't know if this had been their garage they converted or just put it up for this purpose, not sure. But we stayed there and it definitely was tiny. My friend slept in the loft, I slept on the couch. It was fine for one night. Would I want to do it for longer than that? Probably not. And I just used some very basic embellishments here because this is really all I had from it. But then we got on the train again. We took Metro North, and this was the station at Hastings-on-Hudson, and we just got lucky that they have a full coffee house and cafe in the train station. Super convenient for us. So we were able to go down there early, I think it was about 45 minutes before our train, and we got our coffee, and we just sat and chatted a little bit, walked around the train station to see it. You can kind of see the inside of the cafe here. It was called The Good Witch, and it was Oz themed. So for Glenda, I assume. And then here you can see I just documented a little there with a card that matched, and then I had a little coffee sticker that worked from Pipsticks. I had this, kept it very, very simple. And then I liked my 4x4s. I liked the idea of having the white border to kind of break up all the color, and I'm happy with how those came out. So then we got on our train and we were getting off at the Irvington stop this day because we were doing things that were more centered around Irvington. And here you can see as we got off the train and we were walking up the street to go into town, they had this beautifully done sidewalk here, or walkway across the street. So got a picture of that because I love the bright colors. And then over here, I decided to include a map. We got one of Westchester County, and so I cut out where we were, and then I did puffy dots here to indicate all the places where we were up there. And I do have to say, I think this process video for this is the only thing I did in part 2. I kind of just whipped through the rest of it, and so there aren't many process videos after part 1. So I think this one is it. So I have that on that side, and then on this side I had this 4x8 card that just ended up being perfect. It had all these open spaces on the tags, so I filled them with fall themed stickers to match, did a little bit of journaling, and that's really all it needed. So on this side I decided to do a 4x6 collage. They had this art thing happening around town where they painted these dogs, and the artists could do whatever they wanted with them. So we saw more than this, but I picked the 4 that matched the best, that I really liked, and put them together. So that was easy. I just dropped those all into a template in Project Life, and then I had just this sticker for the embellishment. And on the back side, it just worked out well to do another 4x6 collage. So I was able to fit in our first stop, which was the Black Cat Cafe. So we went and had more to eat, actual breakfast or brunch, because at the station previously we really just had coffee. They did have food items, we just didn't have any. So I had coffee before. Here I didn't want more coffee, so I had a smoothie. It was excellent. So if you're in Irvington and you need to stop in somewhere, the Black Cat is a great choice. So our first stop of the day was going to Lyndhurst Mansion, and as you can see, we did choose to do a tour once we got there. So I kept my ticket, put that on here, and just picked some pretty paper for the background. So nothing else really happening there. I just wanted to make it fun. But then here is a postcard I picked up. So this is the mansion that you get to tour. It's fantastic. Our guide was amazing. So if you are up in the Irvington area and you go to Lyndhurst, please take the tour. I think there are 3 different ones. And we did kind of the most popular, like the most basic, where you get to see the most, learn the most history. So we have that. And then over here, I just did some more pictures from the outside because it was just stunning, and we had perfect weather that day. Blue skies, as you can see. It was about 70 75, I think. So pretty perfect on that day. And once we were inside, there was so much to see, and everything is so detailed that I really had to be careful with how I embellished all the photos. So like here we have interior scenes. I went super simple. I picked a very subtly patterned paper for this to fill the 2x4 spot, and just used a sticker that I had. You can see these kind of match. They're the same design. They are from a sticker book that I have, and so I decided to use that so it felt like it went together, even though this was more brown and orange and this was definitely more blue. In these rooms there was a lot of like coral and teal happening, so I wanted to stick with those as best I could. I happened to have this card, which was perfect, so it allowed me to do some journaling. All I did was really add a little piece of the washi to match what I used on the other side. So here I did the gold to bring that out since it was in both pictures. But look at this beautiful ceiling. And there were 12 of these panels. It's one for each hour of the day on the clock. So that was kind of fun to see that represented in the ceiling. Again, if you got money to burn, you can do that. On the next layout, more interior views of the mansion. So here again, some beautiful ceilings, all these stained glass windows. And by the way, they had Tiffany do a lot of those, and they're all different. So each room like basically got its own theme, its own type of window. So again, money to burn. You can be that specific if you want to. So here I did a collage to fit in some of those. I did that all digitally, and then I just added the wooden stars on both sides. This one is obviously quite large. I needed to fill that space. And I have a tiny one over here. Yet more interior spaces. And here I liked the idea of just having something simple like the washi that I had back here. So I decided to do that here with a different one, but I wanted a more white background to lighten it up because there's a lot of wood happening in here, so it felt dark. Even with the windows open, it still felt a little dim in there. So I wanted to lighten that up, and I think that having a white background for the washi was a good choice. So I have that there. It's also here on this one. This is a flip out that's kind of unusual. They're all 3x4s. But I liked doing that because I didn't need to take up the whole space, and it's just something visually different. As you're looking through the album, it's a nice break and something different here. But again, the inside is still kind of dark. So here I chose more of the blue tone that you can kind of see coming in through the window, through the skylight up here. And I just happened to have this sticker of an old kind of Victorian looking house. And I thought, well, that's somewhat fitting, I think. So I just put it on there, outlined it, called it good. On this back side, I just journaled a little about the experience. And then it was on to Sunnyside. This is where Washington Irving lived. He named his estate Sunnyside. So that's why we have that in there. And so now we're transitioning to that house. Very, very different from Lyndhurst. Still quite nice on the inside, certainly, and for its time, but not a mansion like Lyndhurst. But here's our ticket from our tour that we did. We did the 1 o'clock slot. And then here you can see the house from the outside. They have this cute pumpkin Halloween-y themed wreath on the outside, and since Irving wrote the Tales of Sleepy Hollow, it's fitting. And then here we got to see his study where he actually sat and wrote a lot of his work. So as someone who loves the written word, I found that highly fascinating. So I'm glad we got to see that. It was busy again, so minimal embellishment. This is all I did. I just took the red to match the curtains and the carpet and stuff and left it at that. And then here they had this old top hat hanging on the hat stand. And I thought that felt very Irving, very Ichabod Crane. So I made that Halloween themed with a cute little card. As we got to go through the house, we saw all the areas where the family slept and ate, and obviously where he was working. So here the table was laid out beautifully. So I took a picture of that. This was off in the kitchen. Examples of the type of food they would have eaten at that time. So I did all that. And then I had this card. It said gather already. This was from an old Cocoa Daisy set. So all I had to do with it was just add this brown saying, and that's it. So super easy to put that together. So Sunnyside was the last thing we did. Both of those tours took quite a while. And so we had a show that night in the city and we wanted to get back and do some other things before the show. So that was all we did upstate. So we got back on Metro North. Here's my ticket coming back again. And then we were back in the city. And this is a card from the same set that I was using in the first half in that video. So here's another one of those showing up. And it said the Big Apple already. I added this just to show like, okay, we're going back to the city now. And then I decided to do an insert about the fact that we'd carried our backpacks all day because there really wasn't time, or it didn't make logistic sense to go back to the Airbnb just to pick up a backpack. So we wore those all day. We were over it. We needed to stash those somewhere. So I used Luggage Hero to find a place where we could leave them for the rest of the night because we did not want to keep carrying them. And then it was time to go have some drinks. We went up to Bookmarks, which is the cocktail lounge that's inside the Library Hotel. So it's up top. So we got to sit up there. Kind of, there's like a solarium area. And then you can sit outside, but part of it was under construction when we were there, which is sort of a bummer. So I hope sometime when I'm back in the city after the renovation is done, I can go up again and see how it looks. And then we did also have a snack since we hadn't eaten since I had that quiche early in the morning. So we had a little bit of a snack there that we shared. This was fig and arugula flatbread with a balsamic drizzle. It was so incredibly good. I love fig anything, and this did not disappoint. Now on this side, I just picked up one of their cards in the lobby, so I put that in there too, just to remember where we were. And then we had to go to Hudson Yards because our play was at Hudson Yards that night. So this was just getting off the subway. It was some art that was nearby. I love that. So wanted to include it. And then we got out very close to the vessel in Hudson Yards. And I hadn't seen it since they refurbished it and reopened it. It had been closed for like 2.5 years, I think. So this was as it was reopened. So I have some shots of that from different angles. And I kept this very simple, just some puffy stickers, flat sticker there. Did a little bit of journaling about it just to say where we were. And that was it on that one. So after that, we wanted to have a full dinner because we had more time than we anticipated. After we were done at Hudson Yards, we're like, oh, we actually do have time for dinner before the show. So we decided to go and do that. And you can see here, we went to a place called Bellhop. We were having trouble finding a place nearby that wasn't like an hour and a half wait, that wasn't like $60 a plate. We found this place. It's inside a hotel. I don't remember which one. It's on the main floor. It actually has really good reviews, which we didn't really see till after. But everything we had, we liked. We had the everything deviled eggs. They were very, very good. And then we just had like a sandwich for a Reuben type thing. And we actually split this because we'd already had that snack at Bookmarks. We split this as a meal. So it ended up being really economical for us because we both chipped in and it was enough. We weren't like super starving. It was enough to hold us for the rest of the night. So after that, we were on to the play and we went to the mansion at Hudson Yards. It was the first time a show had been done there. A brand new venue for plays. And it was built specifically to house House of McQueen, the first play that they did. And I was excited about it because Luke Newton from Bridgerton fame was playing the lead. And my friend was excited because she used to work in fashion. And so she was much more familiar with Alexander McQueen than I was. So a little something for everybody there. I ended up really liking it. I wasn't sure what I thought of it kind of in the first half. And then in the second half, I was crying in my seat. So good job to those actors. They made me care and I was crying at the end. But it was a very different type of venue and you'll see in a minute here. So this was kind of just on a wall towards the opening, very much a bird thing happening. And then I put in a bunch of my theater embellishments that I have. I have lots of those for Broadway because I go to Broadway a lot. And then here, you don't get a traditional playbill because this was an off-Broadway play. So this was their program, and I chose not to use an attacher. I just did the 6-hole punch right in the program because it didn't really lose anything by doing that. You can still fully open it. You can read everything in there. It's all good. And then the back I chose to decorate because it was just kind of some stuff about the theater on the back. I didn't need that. So I blew up this picture that they had of Alexander McQueen. Here's the bird theme again, and then I just chose to do some matching washi. So part of the venue was, before you even go into the play, they had a whole side gallery that had merch. I didn't buy anything, but they had it. And then a whole room with designs that Alexander McQueen had made. And they got them out of storage and archives and were able to put them in there for the play. So I got to see a bunch of his classic designs that I otherwise never would have seen, never had access to. Some of them were featured in the Met exhibit from years ago, right after he died, but otherwise they've just been in storage. So it was super cool to feel like I had a very special experience and that I was able to see some of these pieces that nobody else will ever see in person. And then here I just picked, because this was so busy, lots of patterns happening, I picked kind of a subtle background, but in the red. It was very red, black, and white, the theming for this. And then I had this puffy sticker that said Wild Soul, and I thought, well, isn't that perfect for McQueen? I think so. And here are just a couple of more designs that were in that exhibit. And then this was actually, it came on a card like as a ribbon, and I cut it apart to make it fit on there. So that's why it looks like that. It has those white edges and things because I had to cut it apart, but I made it work. And then here I was able to grab a photo of the cast at the end. Luke was, I don't know what they were saying to each other, but Luke was having a good time. He was enjoying himself. And I had another card that said New York at the top, so I thought, well, that's perfect. And it matched his shirt. So I put it in there, and I just wrote a little bit on the label, and that was it for the show. And so that night, since my friend had to leave from LaGuardia super early in the morning, we decided to stay in Flushing, because that's way, way closer to LaGuardia. So here's us catching our train. We had to take the 7 train from Hudson Yards all the way to Flushing. And then I was able to pick up a card from our hotel. We stayed at the Asiatic Hotel because it's kind of in their Chinatown area. And I just did a quick selfie in the morning. My friend had already gone. She got up very early, went to the airport. I slept in a little bit, got myself ready. You can kind of see Queens peeking out the window there. That's Flushing, Queens. And then on this side, I did a better shot out the window. I really enjoyed staying there. I would do it again if I were going to use LaGuardia. If I were flying out of JFK or Newark, it would not be smart to stay here, logistically speaking. But for this trip, it worked. And if I were going to be in and out of LaGuardia another time, I would consider it. And so here I just had this little piece of ephemera about hotels. So I thought, well, that works. I'll use the light blue background to kind of match the sky. Didn't take a whole lot to get that done. And then here I took the bus to JFK since I was flying out of that airport. And it was very yellow themed. I had kind of forgotten that it was all yellow. So I really didn't have to work that hard to match it. It matched itself. So I just kind of did that, and I just threw on an arrow sticker. That's it. And then here I am on my flight home, and I got lucky that the tag was also that yellow. So I just filled that in quickly, that my flight left around 11. And then my view out the window, nothing spectacular, but I was able to get it. And so that is the whole second half of New York. This album is done. It's huge. Look at that. Had so much fun putting it together. A little sequin there. And I'm glad it's done, though, because I'm in New York so much. I already have like 2 other trips that I need to scrap by this point. So I'm glad this one is done. Thanks for watching.